On January 24, 2026, a 37-year-old U.S. citizen was shot and killed by a federal immigration agent during an immigration enforcement operation in Minneapolis, Minnesota, reigniting protests not only in that city, but in others across the United States. The man, identified as Alex Jeffrey Preddy, was an intensive care unit (ICU) nurse and well known in his community. The incident occurred during a period of intense federal enforcement activity in the Twin Cities and came just weeks after another fatal shooting of a Minneapolis resident by federal agents. In this video, we'll walk you through what happened, how different parties are reacting, and what the protests look like across the country. According to local authorities and federal officials, Preddy was fatally shot by a U.S. Border Patrol agent during an immigration enforcement action in Minneapolis on January 24th. Federal law enforcement says officers were carrying out an operation targeting an undocumented immigrant when Preddy became involved. Some official accounts suggest Preddy had a handgun and resisted efforts to disarm him. However, bystander video footage reported by multiple outlets shows a different sequence, with Preddy holding a phone and appearing to use it to record or assist others before being pepper sprayed, tackled, and shot as agents moved in. Local police, including Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara, described Preddy as a lawful gun owner but noted that details of the encounter remain under investigation. Preddy was a 37-year-old U.S. citizen who worked as an ICU nurse at a Veterans Affairs hospital in Minneapolis. His family described him as compassionate, committed to helping others, and deeply involved in community work. He also held a legal concealed carry permit, and authorities acknowledged his lawful status. Yet the circumstances surrounding the encounter remain in dispute. While federal officials emphasize a claim that Preddy approached with a weapon, eyewitnesses and videos challenge that narrative, showing him holding only a phone in the moments before he was shot. This contrast has become a central point of debate as investigations continue. Shortly after the shooting, hundreds of people took to the streets of Minneapolis in protest. Demonstrators gathered at the scene, chanting and demanding accountability from federal agencies involved in the operation. Some also blocked intersections and held candlelight vigils to honor Preddy's memory. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz activated the National Guard in response to rising tensions, signaling the seriousness of the situation and the strain it has placed on local public safety resources. Local officials have expressed frustration with federal cooperation. Minneapolis leaders said federal agents initially restricted access for state investigators and denied local officers full access to the scene, raising concerns about transparency in the unfolding investigation. News of Preddy's death wasn't contained to Minneapolis. Protests spread quickly to cities across the U.S., with demonstrations reported in New York City, where hundreds joined anti-ICE protests in public squares. Los Angeles, where marchers rallied downtown calling for federal enforcement reform. Boston, Seattle, Portland, and Durham, North Carolina, where solidarity protests took place. Chicago, where leaders and activists spoke out against federal tactics. These nationwide demonstrations reflect broader concerns over immigration enforcement and use of force policies, showing that Preddy's death resonates with people far beyond Minnesota. The shooting has generated responses at multiple levels of government and across the political spectrum. Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz condemned the federal operation and criticized the actions leading up to the shooting, calling for federal agents to leave the state. Local mayors and state officials echoed similar sentiments, pushing for accountability and investigation. In contrast, federal figures, including from the Trump administration, defended the actions of agents involved and blamed local resistance for complicating enforcement efforts. Some senators have demanded impartial investigations to ensure a thorough and fair review, noting the importance of public trust in official processes. This mix of local and national reactions highlights the tension between federal enforcement priorities and community calls for restraint and oversight. Pretty's shooting comes amid an ongoing wave of immigration enforcement actions in Minneapolis, which has seen multiple controversial incidents in recent weeks, including the fatal shooting of another U.S. citizen earlier in January and the wounding of a third person during enforcement activity. These events have contributed to an atmosphere of heightened distrust between some communities and federal agents, fueling the scale and intensity of protests. Local leaders, civil liberties advocates, and residents have raised questions about how immigration enforcement is being conducted in urban settings, especially concerning use of force decisions and community safety. Investigations by both federal and state authorities are expected to continue in the coming days and weeks. The release of body cam footage, official reports, and independent reviews will be essential to understanding exactly what happened. If you found this update helpful and want clear, factual coverage of major developments at the intersection of U.S. travel, immigration, and community impact, please tap like and subscribe to U.S. Travel and Immigration Update for trusted, calm reporting on stories that affect lives and travel in the United States. Thank you for watching.